Hey, I'm answering a client question about what feels yucky to him about being told be gentle with yourself. What he hears is let yourself off the hook, be in this like sweet, gushy process with yourself, and don't be big, don't step in where it's hard to step in, don't grapple with what needs to be grappled with. So I am all about being as big as you can be. Personal power is very important to me. And so one of his main worries is, am I keeping myself small if I seek to be gentle? Or is that what people are saying to me when they say this? So what I want to say is, you need to be in a gentle process with yourself, because when you're being harsh with yourself, or when you're horrified by something about yourself, let's say you want to be more assertive. If you're ashamed of your lack of assertiveness, if you're horrified and cringe internally at least every time you notice a lack of assertiveness, and you're basically feeling terrible about that, some part of you then is in charge of scolding you about that or self-flagellating about that. And none of that is going to position you to boldly, bravely, steadfastly walk into that scary territory and gradually build the muscle of assertiveness. So if you're more neutral, if you have a more dispassionate approach, then you're going to do better. You're going to fare better. You're going to build the muscle better. I always tell people to witness themselves. You know, if you're not in judgment of yourself, you can access the witness and you can just get curious. Well, how am I operating here? What's going on? And you could get clear about the details of it, both on the mental and the physical level. And I'll say more about that in a minute. But so I love to say, if you're accessing the witness at all, or once you're aware of witnessing, access the compassionate, dispassionate witness. The dispassionate one is never going to have some big story about it or get sucked into whatever the story is, and is going to just be able to access a certain neutrality and just a level open, okay, we can just look at this way of being. And the compassionate one is going to be kind to you, is going to feel some warmth, is going to feel some, you know, like the way you lovingly look at your kid or somebody younger than you that you're in charge of mentoring or teaching, and can just see, aw, you know, aren't they amazing? Aren't they sweet? Aren't they dear? And you're still going to hold them to a standard, and you're going to be kind to them and help them see that you believe they can attain that standard. So, one of the things that happened to me in my life that was so profound and so powerful was spending 9 days at Byron Katie's School for the Work. And what we did over and over there, and unrelentingly, was look at whatever needed to be looked at in ourselves. But it's so interesting how that actually made it so easy for me to just look at anything, because the looking was never glaring, mean, unkind. There was no, I'm going to catch you in this, or come on, you've got to face up to this, you've got to fess up, you've got to, you know, get in there and admit, you know, what a jerk you are, what a loser you are, or how terribly you've done this. It was so dispassionate. It was just so about, yeah, can we all just find it? That's a Katie term, find it. So for example, somebody would come up and they would be agonizingly talking about something that they're horrified of in themselves, some terrible thing they've done or perceive themselves to have done, some way that they're just worse scum than anyone else on the planet. And she would turn to the room and say, okay, so who in this room has ever experienced doing this, being this, feeling this way, whatever it was? And basically the whole room's hands would go up. You know how rooms have a lot of hands and they go up sometimes? That happened. So there was this sort of unflinchingness, this just powerful ability to say, yeah, I've done that, yeah, I do that. And we looked at how we manipulate and how we fail to tell the truth and how we bumble around to cater to somebody that we think is more powerful than us. You know, any number of things. We just looked at all of it. And if you can just always find it, find where, okay, yeah, I do that too. And the most powerful person in the room can find it. And the weakest person in the room can find it. We can all find it. And Katie has this exercise called the gift of criticism, where she has you always look at the opposite of what you're being accused of, or of what you think about yourself. Now, in the gift of criticism, the first thing you do is just find it. Okay, so somebody tells you, wow, you're not very assertive. Okay, well, you've gone over this, right, 1,000,000 times. So if you leave any shame or judgment out, you could just say, oh, let me tell you about that. Well, I'm not assertive with this person ever, and I'm not assertive when somebody is in a certain way of speaking that overwhelms me, or I'm not assertive about this certain topic because that one shuts me down, or I'm ashamed of it, or I grew up believing that you don't talk about that, or whatever. So you could just find it, and you could just dispassionately say, with no judgment, yeah, 1, 2, 3, here are some ways I'm not assertive. Now then you go to the other side of the spectrum. Everything is always on a spectrum. There are always two polarities. If you're in this polarity, not assertive, go over here. Okay, assertive. How am I that? So you could find even one tiny way that you're assertive. You know, Katie would have us do this about things where sometimes we would just, you know, be the deer in the headlights, where no, I can't find that. I can't. There's not one single example. I swear to God, I'm a 100% complete loser here. And if you sit with it long enough, and if you're just willing to look, if you're just as willing to look for the good end of the spectrum, so-called good, as what you believe to be the bad end of the spectrum, you know, at some point you could find, well, I'm really assertive in my head at 3 a.m. when I'm talking back to people. Okay, cool. You just found it. And then just go from there. And you might find, actually, you know, the other day I did tell the mailman that I prefer, I said mailman, then I tried for she to course correct my gender mistake there. Okay, excuse me. So the mail carrier. I'm just going to end this example altogether and scratch my forehead that itches. And now I'm going to say, look dispassionately at anything. Never let yourself off the hook. Walk yourself to be willing to see anything about yourself. And if you do that in a non-gotcha way, or I caught you, or I figured out again what a loser you are, but a way that's always willing to entertain the whole picture, not just where you're the worst at something, then you're going to be able to always come closer to truth. And you're going to be able to do this kindly, and yeah, even gently, because there's nothing vicious, mean, accusatory in it, but there's nothing wimpy about it either.